Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of Editorial. A month ago, 6 girls, pre-university girls, were stopped from entering their classrooms because they were wearing hijab. This pre-university college was in Udupi, in Karnataka. The rest of the students claimed that, listen, you know what? Stopping a community, stopping Muslim girls from entering their classrooms because they were wearing a hijab is basically taking away their fundamental rights given to them by their constitution, by the constitution of our country. Now let us discuss this in detail. Let's get right into the show. Okay, so these girls were stopped from entering the classrooms. Like I said, the other kids said that, listen, it is violation of our fundamental rights. Violation of our fundamental rights. Now, what I'm going to do here is we are going to clinically look at this entire situation. Okay, now we'll clinically look at this entire situation and we'll look at it from a constitutional perspective. We will look at it from a legal perspective. And then finally, we will look at it from a social perspective. And lastly, you decide what is right and what is wrong. Okay. So like I said, these kids feel that their fundamental rights have been violated. What fundamental rights are they talking about? They are talking about Article 25 of our Constitution. Article 25 of our Constitution guarantees freedom of conscience, the freedom to profess, practice and propagate religion to all citizens. When I have the freedom to practice, preach and propagate my religion, why am I stopped from wearing a hijab, which is part of my religion? Is what these kids ask. And these kids says, Baba, this is that Article 25 is what guarantees me the right to wear a hijab. Okay? Now, there is something called as Article 25(1), which you have to read with Article 25. Okay, now, Article 25(1) says, subject to public order, morality and health, and to the other provision of this part, all persons are equally entitled to freedom of conscience and the right freely to profess, practice and propagate their religion. Article 25(1) says that, listen, till such time that your freedom should not violate any public order, not violate morality, not violate health. Ye तीनों छोड़ के, if you are not violating and you are not violating anybody else's freedom of expression, freedom of practicing religion, you are okay. This is what 25(1) says. Okay? So this is a restriction. Achha, now let us look at it once again. If a girl child wear hijab to school / college, does it violate public order? Does it violate morality? Does it violate health? Or is it stopping from somebody else from practicing, preaching, propagating their religion? Does it? You decide. Now there is Article 25(2), okay, which concerns the state. The state here can impose restrictions on the religious freedom of person by making a law on the following grounds. Number 1, like I said, to maintain public order, morality and health. Number 2, to regulate or prohibit any economic, financial, political or other secular activity related to religious conduct. There is third one, for social welfare and reforms for all sections of and department of public work organizations of Hindus. That's the reason why the government controls management of some Hindu temples. So let's keep the third aside because that doesn't concern our current argument. Let us take point number 1 and 2. 1, we have discussed that public order, morality, health, is by a child wearing a hijab, is it being harmed? Chances are you decide, I think it is not. The second thing is to regulate, prohibit economic, financial, political and other secular activities. Is this a child wearing hijab harming any economic, political or any secular activity? Is it harming? You decide. So this is 25-2. So when the children say that by not allowing me to enter the class, by not allowing those girls to enter the class, their fundamental rights have been violated. Are they right or wrong? You decide. Okay. Now, I spoke to you about the constitutional point. Now let me get into legal point. Interestingly, both legal points are from Kerala High Court. In 2016, a girl child was not allowed to enter the examination. She was not allowed to give an examination. Why? Because she was wearing a hijab. And the teacher said, listen, or the supervisor or whoever said that, listen, you know what? You could keep copy paper on you with hijab. So you are not allowed. The High Court, to which said that it was wrong and the girl should be allowed to attend her exams, to attend her school, because hijab was necessary for her to practice her religion. To practice her religion. Article 25. It was necessary for her to practice the religion. Okay. Now another case happened in Kerala itself. And this was in 2018. Another kid who wanted to enter the examination hall with the hijab and with a full sleeve shirt. Okay. Because her parents wanted her to, because she was with two kids, 12-year-old and 8-year-old. And here the court said that the collective rights of the institution is more than the individual's right. So collectively, if the institution says that, Baba, if you are going to come into my institution, you are not going to wear this particular outfit, or you are only going to wear this particular outfit, then the collective rights of the institution is more than the individual rights. Okay? This is the same thing that I think the Karnataka government is also trying to talk. The Karnataka government says, that is BC Nagesh, who is the Education Minister of Karnataka, says that, you see, this rule has been framed in 2013 of this uniform. It is there, it was there in 2013, it was there in 2018, and it is based on Karnataka Education Act. So the institution has formed this act, institution has formed this rule. So how can you question it? This is what BC Nagesh says. Okay? So we have spoken about constitution, we have spoken about law. Now let's talk about social, the last end. You see, if a child wears hijab because it is part of her practicing her religion, does that harm anybody? Does that violate anybody else's practicing their religion? Does that call for somebody else protesting and trying to wear a saffron shawl or saffron whatever, dupatta or whatever? Does it warrant all that? A young Sikh child wearing a turban, does it violate anything else? Does it violate anybody's religious freedom? Or does it violate anybody's emotions or sentiments? Does it violate it? If a Sikh wearing a turban doesn't violate, a Muslim child wearing a hijab, how can it violate anything? Number one. Number two, a lot of people yesterday, people of my age, I was shocked. Yesterday, I was discussing this and a lot of people told me, yeah, you know what, in our younger days, my younger days, do you remember any girl coming to school wearing a hijab? Do you even remember people sporting a beard and people sporting a skull cap? Isn't all of this happening in the last 1.5 decades? And I'm sure a lot of people who may also agree to this logic. So it is all happening in this last 15 years. So fanatism is not just on one side, it is on both the sides. You see, my question to this is very simple. If a child wants to sport a hijab, how does it matter? And if this attitude, if this practice has just been started 15 years back, if it has been propagated and if it is more popular just 15 years back, so be it. How does it matter? What is the argument all about? It is a recent phenomena, so it's a recent phenomena. Does that make anybody else, like I said, does it harm anybody else's religious belief? The answer is no. Now, my final point, which is why I wanted to give this editorial, though I know the subject is stale, I am late in talking about this, but I still wanted to give this editorial. You see, when we fight, when a husband and wife fights or a mother and father fights, normally we don't do it in front of a child. In front of a child, you don't abuse, because finally you don't want to impart that kind of culture to that child, because that child is your future. The child is the future of your family. The child is the future of your country. Today, imagine that school where children are divided right from the middle. You have the Hindu kids and you have the Muslim kids. The kids that wear hijab and the kids that wear saffron shawl. We've divided our children. Do you understand the level in which our communal divide has gone to? What you are changing is not the vote structure. What you are changing is not the power structure. What you are changing is the DNA of this country, and that saddens me. That saddens me. We are changing as a country and we are changing our DNA and we are seeing it happen and we are allowing it to happen. That's what's the sad part. And that's why I wanted to give this editorial, even if I was late. Please don't allow this to happen. India is too dear for all of us. Our culture, what we stand for, is too dear for all of us. Please don't let this happen. Namaskar.